Often as part of being a guest in their country, they require that we get a driver's license during the time that we are there. When I visited Australia, I wasn't allowed to drive until I went and filled out the paperwork to get a temporary license issued by their equivalent of a DMV. That not only made sure that they knew who I was and where I came from and where to find me if I got in a wreck and left a bunch of damage behind, but it also gave them an ability to track where I was and what I was doing on their roads. This is an ability that we have if we give driver's licenses that are not used for travel or to prove citizenship. It gives us the ability to make sure that we're keeping track of people who are here, whether they are guests in our country or whether they have some other reason that they're getting a license under this, so that we have a way to contact them. We have documentation of where they are. And as someone who has also been in a car accident in the past where the other driver didn't have proper identification or insurance, it would have been real nice for me to be able to have that police officer put that person's information down so that we could figure out how to get in touch with them to tell them how much damage they'd caused to my vehicle. So just a few things to keep track of. I know that this is a big and fraught issue, but I did want to bring those to your attention.
Representative Hudson has spoken for the bill. Would anyone like to speak against the bill? Would anyone like to speak for the bill? Would anyone like to speak against the bill? Representative Lundstrom, you're recognized to speak against the bill.
First of all, when you travel in a foreign country, it's called a visa. And when you come to this country and you want to drive in this country, you have a visa, you go to the rental car company, and you drive. So let's talk about that. It is extremely disrespectful to legal residents. When you come here legally, you follow the proper channels, you get a driver's license, and you can function in this country. When you're here illegally, you've already broken the law. You've already shown disrespect for this country. So I think we need to have, first of all, follow our laws, and you're welcome to be here. I think we need to remember our laws have to be followed first, and this needs to be a federal issue that's addressed at our borders. So just one person's opinion.
Representative Flowers, for what purpose?
Question.
You're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Lundstrom, what about people who haven't traveled here for vacation but are seeking refuge and are in the middle of legal processes? So they may not be necessarily documented, but they are working and going through the legal process that could get them to the status that some would call legal. You know, what about that no man's land and the ability to adhere to public safety and to follow the law by having a license and driving and going to work and paying taxes? What about those folks?
When they work through the embassy process and they go through that process, they get temporary visas and temporary green cards to do that process so that they are here welcomed, because they are coming as refugees, and we need to welcome those folks, but they come through as a process. They have the paperwork as the process.
Follow up?
You're recognized.
From my understanding, that process is an immigration court process whereby there might not necessarily be, so there wouldn't be a visa. You're applying for that.
You have the paperwork to show it.
If I could finish my...
Sorry.
Yes. And so if you have the paperwork to show that that is happening, you may not necessarily have citizenship yet, but may still be working. Again, there's sort of a gap or a no man's land for people who are not citizens or have green cards, but they are here going through a legal process seeking refuge, which is many people who come and seek refuge from whatever kind of violence or whatever kind of international issues. Wouldn't this provide an opportunity for them and for those of us who are on the road with people to engage a legal process so that if there are accidents, or for them to be able to identify themselves as someone who's going through a process, couldn't this process serve as that, given that it's not prohibiting law enforcement from doing their jobs, whatever that is.
I would respectfully disagree. They go through a process at the embassy. They get their paperwork. I have folks that are going through this right now in my own area. It's difficult, but they do have the paperwork to show that they are here as a guest of this country and that they are being welcomed in this country, which is very important that they go through that process. And they go through that court process, but they have the documents to show that they are a legal guest of this country. And that's part of the welcoming process. I regret that it takes so long.
Right.
But they do go through an embassy process, and they are welcome in this country, and they have the documentation to show it.
And they should be able to get a license, right?
No. That once they get the paperwork, then they can go get a license just like everybody else. Thank you.
Representative Kavanaugh. Representative Lundstrom has spoken against the bill. Would anyone like to speak for the bill? Would anyone like to speak against the bill? Representative Richardson, you're recognized to close for the bill.
Colleagues, thank you for the questions and the robust debate. Representative Hudson did identify one point that I didn't make, and there is a significant cost to insurance rates that would be impacted if something like this were to pass. I've got members in my community who have been in the United States for years upon years following the process and are unable to drive. Specifically, I know a gentleman who just got his green card this week from 25 years ago. So the process is broken. What I want to see is people able to drive safely, and be able to get insurance. That's why I'm running the bill. So, good or bad, thank you.
Representative Richardson is closed for the bill. The question before the House is the passage of House Bill 1429. Prepare the machine, Mr. Clerk. Has everyone voted? Has everyone voted? Cast up the ballot, Mr. Clerk. With 27 yeas, 49 nays, and 11 present, the bill has failed. Mr. Clerk, please read House Bill 1526.
House Bill 1526 by Representative Bentley,